The Shadow in Blackwood Manor. James always loved exploring abandoned places, but Blackwood Manor was different. It wasn't just a deserted house, it was said to be cursed. Ignoring the locals' warnings, he decided to spend a night there to prove that ghosts didn't exist. As he stepped inside, he felt a strange heaviness in the air. Dust layers covered everything, and a chandelier hung from the ceiling entangled in cobwebs. His footsteps echoed on the creaking wooden floor. As the clock struck midnight, the whispers began. At first they were faint, like someone talking softly in the distance. James thought it was just the wind. But then the voices grew louder. The words were unintelligible, but they carried an unsettling urgency, as if someone was trying to tell him something. Suddenly, a cold shiver ran down his spine. He turned around and saw a shadow in the dim light, a silhouette darker than the night, standing at the end of the hallway. It had no eyes, no face, just a shape vibrating with anger. James' breath hitched. The shadow began to move towards him soundlessly. His body went numb, his legs refusing to move. The whispers in his ears grew so loud that he wanted to scream, but then everything went silent. The next morning, the villagers found his car parked outside Blackwood Manor, but James was nowhere to be found. When they entered the house, they found only his camera lying on the floor. The last photo on the camera sent chills down everyone's spines. A terrified face, James' own, as if some unseen entity had captured his final moment. Part 2. Prisoner of the Shadows. After James disappeared, rumors spread throughout the village. Some said he had run away in fear, while others believed he had fallen victim to the house. But his best friend Mark didn't believe these stories. Determined to find the truth, Mark went to Blackwood Manor, armed with a camera, a flashlight, and a voice recorder. As soon as he entered the house, he felt the same heavy air and oppressive atmosphere. James' camera still lay on the floor. When he saw the last photo, his heart pounded in his chest, the same terrifying face, the same wide screaming eyes. The whispers began again, soft, low murmurs. Mark gathered his courage and said softly, "James, are you here?" The whispers stopped abruptly. There was a rustling sound in the corner. He shone the flashlight, but there was nothing there, just dust and darkness. With trembling hands, he turned on the voice recorder. "If you're here, give me a sign," he said. There was silence for a few moments. Then, a slow, broken voice came from the recorder. "Get out." Mark's blood ran cold. He played the recording again. The voice was filled with pain, with fear. It sounded like James. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder all around him. The shadows on the walls began to move. They were thickening, as if coming to life. Then a shadow detached itself from the wall, a black, shapeless figure. Inside that shadow, Mark saw James' face, pale, terrified, his eyes screaming in silence. "Save me," the voice said, but as if from a deep well. Mark couldn't take it anymore. He turned and ran, stumbling down the stairs and out of the house. Only miles away did he dare to look back. A few days later, he played the recording again. This time, after James' voice, there was another, deeper, more demonic voice. "He's ours now." Mark realized that Blackwood Manor wasn't just haunted. It was like a vampire devouring souls. And James would never come back. The mystery of the mirror. Haunted by James' disappearance, Mark delved deeper into the legends of Blackwood Manor. He discovered that the mansion had been built by a sorceress, Eliza Blackwood, who used mirrors to trap souls. According to legend, the mansion's main mirror, still present in the basement, was a gateway for spirits. One chilling night, Mark re-entered the manor, this time with the intention of destroying the mirror. In the beam of his flashlight, he descended the stairs into the cold, damp basement. The air was thick with the pungent smell of rotting wood and damp earth. At the end of the basement, he saw the mirror. It was massive, framed in dark wood, and its surface was covered in a thick layer of dust. When Mark shone his flashlight on it, he saw his own distorted reflection. But behind him, shadows were shifting, whispers echoing. As Mark approached the mirror, the whispers turned into screams. Cracks appeared on the mirror's surface and the shadows thickened, as if they were trying to break free. Suddenly, a cold light emanated from the mirror, and Mark saw James' face reflected within it. His eyes were filled with agony, and his lips trembled. "Help me," James whispered, his voice a deep, distant echo. Mark reached out his hand, but as soon as he touched the mirror, a violent jolt threw him back. A black shadow emerged from the mirror, a monstrous figure with eyes that glowed like red fire. "You cannot change anything here," the shadow said in a deep, guttural voice. "He is ours now." Mark raised his flashlight and struck at the shadow, but the light passed through it, causing no harm. The shadow lunged at Mark, and he felt his flashlight, slipping from his grasp and extinguishing in the darkness. In the darkness, Mark heard James' screams and the shadow's demonic laughter. He knew he was defeated. Blackwood Manor had claimed another soul, and the mirror still stood in the basement, waiting for its next victim. The next morning, when the villagers entered the basement, they found only shattered pieces of the mirror and Mark's flashlight. Mark was nowhere to be found. And within the shards of the mirror, they saw the faces of James and Mark, together merged into one face, as if they had become one with the soul of Blackwood Manor.